Hello there, everyone. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Hello there. Today we're going to be continuing on with some studs and duds talk. And here to help me do that is Mike Kashuba. Mike, thanks again for joining me. Pleasure to have you as always.
Yeah, it's fun to come on, Aaron. I appreciate the repeated invite. That means I must be doing something right.
Yeah, fair enough. You're always fun to talk to. Do you want to take a minute here? Tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, so I am an editor over at Last Word on Sports if you're looking for some written content. And then recently I've been joining the RPG Fantasy Football podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Instagram, or Twitter, basically anywhere you can find podcasts. So if you're looking to hear my voice a little bit more, look for the podcast. If you're looking to find my articles, Last Word on Sports.
Those I do listen to the podcast at work, just the audio feed, and I tell you, it's trippy when you listen to people over and over, and then you have to actually see them on YouTube. It's like, oh, that's what that guy looked like.
Yeah.
Or when you see them, I don't know how many times I've told Pat Fitzmaurice that it boggled my mind to realize he doesn't look like Bronn from Game of Thrones because that's his Twitter biopic. So.
Yeah.
Or Ian Hartitz isn't really Johnny Depp from Fear and Loathing, so.
How could you have possibly known? They look so similar.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get into it. We're starting off with Michael Pittman, Indianapolis Colts wide receiver, 30 rushing yards last year to go with 925 receiving yards, only 4 touchdowns, 90.5 fantasy points in full PPR scoring, good for 13.53 per game, finished as wide receiver 20, and is going 61st overall in Fantasy Pros ADP. Let me bring that up. That means he is currently going, he moved up to 59, going as wide receiver 29. What is it you like about Pittman?
Yeah, so I like his individual talent, but he's actually on my duds list. So as we're looking at what Michael Pittman's going to bring to the table this season.
I told you I don't check these out in advance because I don't want to know whether I'm arguing for or against here. I want to find out on the spot. I thought we were starting with the stud, so I was under the impression I was arguing against it. I guess I'm arguing for it. Continue.
Well, there you go. I threw you a little curveball to start out. It's good for the content.
Great. I can't do the curveball.
I recently wrote an article on the fantasy football impact of rookie quarterbacks. You can find that at Last Word on Sports. And it looks, as you go through the year-by-year numbers, receivers will drop 2.7 points per game from their baseline on average. Then when you look at rushing quarterbacks, receivers will drop a couple of points from their baseline compared to being with a more a traditional pocket passer. Yeah. So when you combine those two things with Pittman going as you said, he moved up. He's the wide receiver 29 right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, overall, he was 61st overall. He's moved up 2 spots to 59. So
yeah,
it's a small move.
So just some names that are right next to him. He's going next.
1 sec. I can bring it up for you.
Yep.
I just gotta share the other screen here.
Here it comes.
I've got the ADP right here. He is some of those names. The few above him, we got Christian Watson, Kirk, London, Williams, Godwin, and then below him, I think I've talked Pittman before. Below him, there's a group of guys I love compared to him. Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett. Love all 3 of those. Sorry, continue on with what you were saying.
Yeah, Ayuk is primed to be a top 24 wide receiver this year. Deontay Johnson he just suffered from the rookie quarterback impact. And then I think Quentin Johnson and John Dotson are both below him as well. So you just look at all of the names that you can get later.
Well below him.
Jahan Dotson, yeah. So
Pittman's 59. Quentin Johnston is 103. And you said Jahan Dotson?
Yep.
Jahan Dotson's got to be higher than that. There he is, 86. So you can still get him 27 picks later.
Yeah. So when you take the rookie quarterback impact, the rushing quarterback impact, because we're going to assume Anthony Richardson is starting, his numbers would set him as a finish in the wide receiver 35 to 40 range, which is way too low. And that's if everything goes according to averages, which it likely will not. So I'd rather bet on somebody with top 24 upside in that range than somebody that's going to probably flame out.
I agree wholeheartedly, especially when you factor in a probably healthy Jonathan Taylor. And even if the other passing weapons aren't spectacular, someone's got to do something between Downs and Pierce and Jelani Woods. Who would you like next?
Let's do Jahmyr Gibbs.
That's an easy one for me to run through here because he's a rookie and has no freaking stats.
Yep.
He is currently going as 36th overall. We'll see. I do these a few days in advance. We'll see if he has moved up. 36th overall. He is currently 36th, RB 15. As I said, he's a rookie, so there are no stats. Is he a stud or a dud for you?
Yeah. So let me just list the argument real quick, and I think you'll be able to figure out which side I'm on. Here's a list of running backs that have top 15 draft capital in the last few years. Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott. You get the idea.
Yeah.
He has pass catching chops. There's a commitment from the offense that they actually like the guy. So DeAndre Swift, it seemed like the coaching staff hated him. They wanted to move on from him. They sold him for a nickel and a high five. He finishes the RB21 last year
nickel
in the same offense.
I like that. Sorry,
Swift has Christian McCaffrey's rookie year upside, which I think he finishes the RB6, and he's going as the RB15. So why not swing for the fences, try and get a top 15 running back as the floor?
I don't know what to make of Gibbs here. I don't know. There's going to be lots of opportunity with Jameson Williams. I almost said Jameis Winston. With Jameson Williams suspended, I think the talent's there. I don't know. I think his price is probably pricing me out. Let's bring it up, though, before I speak out of turn. I can't see over my own freaking mic. What do we got here? It's not been a great day. I'm struggling here. All right. We've got – where the hell is he? All right. 15. So we got above him Hall, ETN, and Walker. For redraft purposes, I don't know if I'd take Hall over him. I'd probably take ETN. I'd probably take Walker, but I'm high on Walker, so probably most people wouldn't. As far as Jones, Mixon, and Dobbins, I don't know about you, but I would pretty easily take all three of them in redraft over Gibbs. What do you think about the people in this range?
If I'm looking at the guys in this range, the two that I'm targeting the most heavily are Jahmyr Gibbs, and then what was the Dobbins is the other one that I'm looking at there.
Dobbins.
They finally have a offensive coordinator that knows that the forward pass is legal, so that's awesome. I think he's going to get plenty of pass catching work, even though I know the rushing quarterback brings a little damper on that. But I want the youth, I want the explosiveness, I want the talent. I think there will be some weeks where Jahmyr Gibbs gets 5 catches for 100 yards because he breaks off an 80-yard one with his 4.3 speed. And then he gets maybe only 5 to 10 carries, but he's going to get enough passing game work and then an explosive play or two that there's going to be some huge spike weeks that'll win you weeks. And I'm not looking for 8 or 9 points. I'm looking for week-winning weeks.
It's interesting that I like the 3 below him better than the 3 above him. That's kind of surprising, but looks like despite the fact that this is a redraft ranking, they have a lot of dynasty players on their site, and that has put the youth above the old guys. Alrighty, next up, who would you like to talk about now?
Let's do a little Debo action.
Debo, let's not. That sounds terrible. I pray you're arguing in 4 because I do not want to argue for Debo Samuel.
Well,
God damn it. One sec. I cut the card off of here.
Yeah.
Of course I do. Okay, you know what we're going to do? We're not going to go Debo. We're going to go to your other guy first because it's going to take me a second to bring Debo up. So let's go to someone I actually like first, and we'll go to Deontay while I try and find the Debo card I just destroyed. With Deontay, 882 receiving yards, 0 touchdowns, 159.7 fantasy points, good for 10.57 per game, finished as wide receiver 30, even with 0 touchdowns. ADP is 65th overall, which is good for wide receiver 31. Are you pro or against Deontay?
For Deontay, I know this is going to be strange to hear, but the guy wearing the Steelers jersey is pro Deontay.
No, I'm pro Deontay too, so you're not gonna have to sell me on this one.
Yeah,
I think it's probably if I had to do a my guy show for myself, he would probably be the my guy because he's just undervalued everywhere. So
he set a record for the amount of targets and receptions a guy can have with 0 touchdowns. That's not going to happen again. So we talked a little bit about the rookie quarterback impact, how it's 2.7 points per game. If you jump him up 2.7, and that's just the average, that's going to put him firmly in the top 24 wide receivers.
You know, you mentioned that he set a record, and it triggered something I overheard yesterday. The other receiver you chose, Pittman, also set a record last year. It was the fewest amount of receiving yards in a season with 99 or more catches. So you've got record-setting receivers all the way across the board here, whether you like them or hate them. But
yeah, I think the Pittman thing shows that there's a problem with he can't do anything after the catch. He's just catching it and falling over. And the Deontay thing is just showing a string of bad luck because touchdowns they're not a sticky stat. So he's due for some positive regression. So where he's going right now in drafts, I love him well more than the names around him. And whether you take George Pickens, whether you take Deontay Johnson, I think there's a lot of room for growth in the Pittsburgh offense, and one of them will finish top 24.
The fact that people are having the conversation about him or George Pickens is kind of scary. Let's bring him up in the ADP here. Yep. Where is he? Deontay. So I like Ayuk and Lockett. That doesn't scare me. That's the right range there, but I like him better than Williams, Godwin, and Pittman. I like him better than Evans, Marquise Brown, George Pickens, Treylon Burks, and Jigba. Like, what do you think of the receivers in this range here?
Yeah, specifically in Jigba, he's going to be likely the wide receiver 3 on his offense, and it's Geno Smith. Like, if you're talking about the wide receiver 3 in Los Angeles tied to Justin Herbert, that's exciting. If you're talking about the wide receiver 3 tied to Geno Smith in Seattle in a run-first offense, that's not that exciting.
I don't know what you mean.
That kind of scares off JSN. That kind of scares me off Lockett, although I think Lockett's still criminally underrated. And then if you just go back and look at how Baker Mayfield has supported wide receivers, I think those wide receivers will be good for Baker in a super flex setting, but he will be bad for them from a wide receiver standpoint. So I like Deontay more than everyone around him, and that's why he's one of the studs for this episode.
Yeah, I can't argue it. Like I said, I like Ayuk and Lockett relative to their ADP. I think Deontay's still the guy I prefer. You're right. Lockett, aging team there. He's getting old. Lots of mouths to feed. San Francisco for Ayuk, lots of mouths to feed. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a whole lot of shares of Deontay. Even if you go up to this range, McLaurin, DJ Moore, Judy, Christian Kirk, Christian Watson, London, and then the guys I mentioned before. I think maybe Drake London's the only one I'd consider maybe over him, but I still think I'm taking Deontay Johnson. He's 31 here. I think I'm taking him. I take him over Ridley. I take him over Hopkins. I think I could put him as high as 18 or 19. I take him over Debo, which we'll get to in a sec, but I don't like Debo at all. So I see him definitely as a top 20. He's going as 31. So I'm going to have lots of Debo. Deontay. Yeah. Fucking, I have not transitioned this into my brain that we are dealing with Deontay Johnson, which is amazing because I love Deontay, but apparently I've had a minor stroke. So yeah. Since I apparently want to talk nothing but Debo, let's just bring up Debo so I can shut the hell up about him. All righty. Where is he? Debo Samuel, San Francisco wide receiver, 232 rushing yards, which is notable, 632 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, 157.4 full PPR points, good for 12.8 per game, finished as wide receiver 40 last year, and yet, despite the fact that Brandon Ayuk was very far ahead of him, he gets drafted considerably ahead of Ayuk, which is why I own no Debo and lots of Ayuk. Currently ADP of 34th overall, which is exactly where he still sits, wide receiver 16. And I'm pretty sure if I bring this list up in a minute and go all the way back down to where we were to Deontay, there's not a single receiver here that I'm not taking over Debo Samuel. So I hope he is a dud for you, but I guess I'm going to find out.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty boring episode as far as us going back and forth, but Debo I'm not touching him with a 10-foot pole. He could slide down in the wide receiver 30 range. I still don't want to touch him. He has either a mobile quarterback with Trey Lance or Sam Darnold which I'm not taking a receiver that's going with Sam Darnold, or he gets Brock Purdy back, which he's recovering from a UCL injury, which is pretty important to throw the ball. If you take Debo's name out of it, like Debo has a big name because of his big year 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He finished as a wide receiver 40 last year, and I went through the points per game last year and found some other names. If I told you you were taking a wide receiver 18 that finished just ahead of Jacoby Myers, just ahead of Zay Jones, barely ahead of Alan Lazard, why are you taking him 18? Debo's a hard pass for me.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. He's literally living off of one good year. That's it. He had one good year. Then he signed that big contract. They rush him less. There's too many mouths to feed just from a strictly passing standpoint. And that was never his game. He always had just as many rushing yards and rushing TDs as he did receiving. And it's just not there. Like I said, I'll bring up the ADP here. And it's just mind-boggling. I don't understand it.
A quick thing while you're pulling that up, I think it's funny. Like, I love running backs that can catch passes because in PPR and half PPR, like those are bonus points. I don't like everyone's all excited that there's a wide receiver taking running back snaps. Like, you don't get bonus points per carry. I'd rather him catch a screen pass. I'd rather him catch a slant. Like, don't get excited because it's cool to see Debo line up in the backfield.
So Debo is wide receiver 16. I won't even talk about the wide receivers above him. I think 15 is where it falls off a cliff as at Metcalf here. But these top 15, I think, are all bona fide studs. So we'll disregard them. But after that, like Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Hopkins, Ridley, McLaurin, DJ Moore, Judy, Watson, Kirk, London, Williams, Godwin, Pittman, Ayuk, Deontay, Lockett, Evans. Like, I can get, where'd he start? From 16, I can get all the way down to probably 36 before there's even a receiver I consider taking him over. I can't do it.
It's hilarious that Hopkins doesn't even have a team, and I'd rather have Hopkins already. I don't even know where he's signing, but I'll roll the dice with that anyway.
Yeah, because at least you figure he's going to go somewhere and be an alpha and get the targets and the end zone. Christian McCaffrey, I think, kills any chance of Debo returning value, but like, okay, so he is, where the hell was he? I lost him again. Wide receiver 16. Ayuk outproduced him last year and is wide receiver 30. Why are you doing that? It's like the same with Deontay. Deontay versus Pickens. I see Pickens going over Deontay in a lot of drafts. Why would anyone not take Deontay and Ayuk? Why would anyone go Pickens and Debo? It makes no sense.
Because highlights are cool.
Ugh. Yeah. George Pickens, you're right. One highlight reel catch per game, and that's about it. Yep. What do you think of the receivers in this general area here, comparing him to pretty much anyone on this board? It's a whole bunch of guys that are better than
I think if you look at him and Pittman, it's like wide receiver 36, 37 range before I'm even considering touching them. And I'll let somebody else draft them, and it's cool. And like, I'm rooting for him, and I hope it goes well, but he might be the fourth best option on his own offense. So I don't know why you're taking him.
That's so true. I mean, I can't do it with him. I don't even know what else to say. It's just, I see him here as wide receiver 16. I'm trying to think if I have any drafts up right now that I'm going to bring in my sleeper account here. So just try and hold tight with me for a second. I'm trying to think if I have any drafts that are going that aren't dynasty. I do. I have one draft here. We're going to bring it up, and I'm going to try and bring it on the screen here, and we're going to take a look and see where he went in this draft. Keep in mind, I have not checked in on this draft in a few days, so I don't know where he went. Debo Samuel went at 3.08. Ahead of Metcalf. That's disgusting. Cody, come on. Cody, what are you doing? I love Cody, but
quick question. Is that a draft full of like other, analysts, celebrity, like things like that? Or is it
Player Profiler Championships? It's only people who work for Player Profiler.
Well, whoever took him needs to be fired. And if they need a replacement,
it's Cody Carpentier.
I just did a draft with a couple of like other smaller name guys, and he went in the 409. Which is better, but he still went well ahead of, I think, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Ayuk.
Ayuk, 608 for Ayuk. Oh my God, that's terrible. 608 compared to 308.
We had 604 for Ayuk in ours. Like it's just gross. Like take the guy that's younger, that's better at wide receiver. He's not going to get the cool carries, but he's going to get the touchdowns and the catches, which I'd rather have.
Deontay and Pickens going back to back here at 6'11 and 6'12. Who's the other guy? Oh, we talked Pittman. Pittman went at 5'9". Like, I'm not in on Pittman, and I still think I'd rather have Pittman than Samuel. Sorry, my eyes bothering me. It's allergy in here, but that's scary. 3.08. I hope Cody knows something I don't, because that one's suspect.
Yeah.
And that's weird because normally I agree with Cody on pretty much everything. People accuse me of being Cody's puppet, so I loved Cody. He's the reason I applied to Player Profiler, but that's a confusing one to me. I'm not sure I get it. All right, well, let me get rid of that screen, and we'll bring you back up here and take one more chance to tell everyone where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, so thanks for having me on the show. It's always good to come on and chop it up with you.
Yeah, it's good
if you're looking for some of my articles, they're over at Last Word on Sports. You can just find it at lastwordonsports.com. And if you're looking for more of my voice and more fantasy football takes, it's the Fantasy Football RPG podcast, and with my co-host Corey Bittner, and we're breaking down the AFC West this week, so it'll be a little more exciting. We did the AFC South last week. That was a drag. Absolutely brutal.
I did a write-up on that, and boy, is it. You know what, though? It has the potential to be an exciting exciting division in the future if they get any of those high picks, but this year it's going to suck. But I got to say that mustache game is elite on you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's the gap. Like it doesn't grow there regardless. So.
Oh, that's not intentional? You didn't shave it that way? It just
super like it's like French blood or something. It just stays there. But
my brother-in-law's got that with like the side here. He tries to go the chin strap and it grows in all patchy and missing spots. There's a bald spot on his neck. It's hilarious. So.
That's tough.
All right. Well, this has been Studs and Duds with Mike Kashuba. Once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist. Thank you, everyone, for joining me, and thanks again to Mike for joining me. This has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Take care.
See you.